wunderschönen guten Morgen nach Österreich aus einem heute leider verregneten Manila und herzlich willkommen zum ersten Webinar des Außenwirtschaftscenter Manila. Und für dieses erste Webinar haben wir uns auch gleich ein besonders interessantes Thema ausgesucht, nämlich Lebensmittelexporte auf die Philippinen. Was gibt es zu beachten? Wie läuft das Importprozedere ab, vor allem mit der Food and Drug Administration? Wo liegen Chancen, wo liegen Möglichkeiten etc.? All das sind die Themen, die wir gemeinsam mit Ihnen in der nächsten Stunde behandeln möchten. Bevor wir allerdings gleich mit der ersten Präsentation beginnen, von meiner Seite eine kurze Vorstellung. Mein Name ist Christina Stieber. Ich bin die stellvertretende Wirtschaftsdelegierte für die Philippinen hier in Manila. Mit mir hier im Büro in Manila ist CJ Garcia, unser Experte, der Ihnen dann den Hauptteil des Webinars, die Präsentation, geben wird. Wir freuen uns schon sehr darauf. Ebenfalls teilnehmen unsere Kollegen in Wien, die ich Ihnen dann auch in wenigen Sekunden präsentieren werde. Bevor es allerdings losgeht, von meiner Seite noch ein paar wichtige Hinweise bzw. ein paar Housekeeping Remarks. Das erste ist, die Präsentationen, die Sie sehen werden, werden wir Ihnen dann natürlich im Anschluss an das Webinar zur Verfügung stellen, sowohl auf unserer Webseite wko.at als auch mittels Link, den Sie erhalten werden über eine E-Mail, die wir in den nächsten Tagen an Sie verschicken. Ebenso wird dieses Webinar aufgezeichnet und dann auf dem YouTube-Kanal der Außenwirtschaft Austria ebenfalls publiziert. Sie erhalten dann genauso mit diesem E-Mail, mit unserer E-Mail an Sie dann auch den Link dazu, beziehungsweise können Sie auch auf dem YouTube-Kanal bereits das Video einsehen. Das heißt, wenn Sie hier etwas versäumt haben, wenn es Ihnen zu schnell gegangen ist, Sie können dann natürlich auch dieses Webinar noch einmal nachhören und nachsehen in aller Ruhe. Wenn Sie während des Webinars Fragen haben für die Vortragenden und das brennt Ihnen wirklich unter den Fingernägeln, dann nur her damit, rein in die Tastatur hauen und uns diese Frage schicken. Und zwar sehen Sie die Funktion dazu am Bedienpanel auf der rechten Seite Ihres Bildschirms. Also hier bitte gleich die Fragen stellen. Ich werde die Fragen dann sammeln und am Ende des Vortrags an die Vortragenden sowohl in Wien als auch hier in Manila weiterleiten. Wir können dann auf Ihre Fragen eingehen. So, jetzt wollen wir aber gleich loslegen. Und wie schon anfangs kurz erwähnt, freue ich mich ganz besonders, dass wir auch unsere Experten aus Wien begrüßen dürfen dabei. Und zwar ist das Branchenteam mit Irene Braunsteiner und Franz Ernst-Brunner. Branchenteam Food, Retail und Consumer Goods. Hier sind sie. Die beiden sind in Wien auch Ihre ersten Ansprechpartner bei allen Fragen zum Export von Lebensmitteln rund um den Globus. Und von meiner Seite nun mal Hallo nach Wien und ich freue mich auf euren Beitrag.
Ja, auch von unserer Seite ein herzliches Hallo aus Wien nach Manila und natürlich an unsere Zuhörerinnen und Zuhörer. Und bevor wir gleich in Medias Res gehen, möchten wir erst einmal herausfinden, welche Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmer wir begrüßen dürfen. Dazu haben wir 3 Fragen vorbereitet. Die erste Frage lautet, welche Produkte stellen Sie her? Dann erscheint gleich eine Folie. Bitte klicken Sie an, welches Produkt Sie herstellen, entweder Milch- oder Käseprodukte, nicht alkoholische, alkoholische Getränke, Süßwaren, Marmeladen, Fleischwaren oder andere. Also gesagt, ein einfacher Klick und in ein paar Sekunden wissen wir dann schon, welche Herstellerinnen und Hersteller wir begrüßen dürfen. Also wir sehen hier 57% unserer Zuhörerinnen und Zuhörer stellen Süßwaren und Marmeladen her. Sehr gut, dann können wir da vielleicht auch noch etwas drauf eingehen. An zweiter Stelle kommen dann schon die nicht alkoholischen, alkoholischen Getränke und dann auch noch andere Produkte. Die zweite Frage ist, exportieren Sie oder produzieren Sie bereits auf den Philippinen? Einfach Ja oder Nein anklicken bitte. Weil dann wissen wir auch schon, ob wir hier schon mit bereits erfahrenen Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmern zu tun haben oder ob wir wirklich noch viel Potenzial haben für die Philippinen. Nein, also die Mehrheit mit 56% exportieren noch nicht oder produzieren noch nicht. Und dann die allerletzte Frage, das ist natürlich für diejenigen, die schon Produkte auf den Philippinen vertreiben. Haben Sie einen Distributionspartner, eine eigene Niederlassung? Sind es Direktexporte oder eben noch nicht ein Vertrieb auf den Philippinen? Bitte auch diese Frage noch beantworten. So. Und auch hier ist die Mehrheit, eben 56% noch nicht. Diejenigen, die bereits ihre Produkte vertreiben, über einen Distributionspartner. So, dann wissen wir eben auch ein bisschen besser Bescheid über unsere Zuhörerinnen und Zuhörer. Dann vielen Dank. Dann darf ich das Wort übergeben an Franz Brunner, unseren Kollegen, der die Messen verantwortet für den Nahrungsmittelbereich.
Ja, einen schönen guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Die Außenwirtschaft Österreich hat wie immer ein ambitioniertes Veranstaltungsprogramm, auch für Asien. Wir wissen aus Erfahrung, österreichische Exportfirmen starten zuerst einmal in Europa, haben dort die wichtigen Veranstaltungen und dann geht es schon über Dubai, Nahen Osten, geht es nach Asien. Und Sie haben hier eine kleine Aufstellung. Es sind nicht alle Messen angeführt. Wir haben die angeführt, wo Sie noch die Möglichkeit haben, teilzunehmen. Das Highlight ist dieses Jahr im April die Food and Hotel Asia, ProWine Asia in Singapur, ist die wichtige überregionale Messe für Asien dieses Jahr. Es ist wichtig für die gesamte Lebensmittelwirtschaft, angefangen von Lebensmittel, Bio, Wein, gedeckter Tisch, Lebensmitteltechnik. Es werden dort also an die 5000 Aussteller ausstellen. Und interessanterweise von den Besucherländern sind die Philippinen an der 5. Stelle mit 1500 Besuchern von insgesamt 47.000 Besuchern. Also sehr interessant. Und wir werden dort 3 Österreich-Stände organisieren. Den größten im Food-Bereich, den zweiten im Wein-, Spirituos- und Likörbereich und den dritten Bereich in Lebensmitteltechnik, wie zum Beispiel mit der Firma König Maschinenbau. Dann die nächste wichtige Veranstaltung ist sicherlich die FHC, also Food and Hotel China, ProWine China in China. Sie ist im November, ist unser Flaggschiff für den chinesischen Markt, aber auch für die umliegenden Länder. Dort werden wir auch wieder 2 Österreich-Stände im Bereich Food und im Bereich Wein und Spirituosen organisieren. Die Anmeldung wird dann im Juni erfolgen. Weiters haben wir dann nationale wichtige Messen, die Soul Food für Korea ist im Mai, wird von unserem Kollegen Franz Schröder veranstaltet, ist ebenfalls für den koreanischen Markt sehr, sehr wichtig. Wir haben dort große Ambitionen im Milch- und Molkereibereich, Käsebereich, genauso im Bierbereich, Wein und so weiter, Süßwaren. Weiters wird in Taipei bei der Food Taipei im Juni wird es eine kleine Präsentation geben, ist ein Austrian Showcase, wo österreichische Firmen Produkte präsentieren können, zum Teil auch anwesend sein können, wird von unserem AC Taipei veranstaltet. Dann sind wir sehr, sehr stolz auf die Fine Food Australia, eine Erfolgsgeschichte. Wir wären dieses Jahr zum 9. Mal in Melbourne dabei mit österreichischen Firmen im Bereich Bio, Kürbiskernprodukte, aber natürlich Wein, Spirituosen und so weiter, Käseprodukte, dann auch Mocktails, das heißt Milchprodukte mit alkoholischen Zusätzen. Also wenn Sie da interessiert sind, wir werden das jetzt dann im Februar beginnen auszuschreiben. Wir gehen auch nach Indien. Indien ist natürlich Vorderasien, ist nicht unbedingt Asien, aber werden wir wieder anbieten mit einer Unterbrechung von 2 Jahren. Wir wollen nach Mumbai wieder gehen. Letztes Mal hatten wir 10 Firmen. Wir möchten gerne dort Ingredients als eigenen Bereich, Foodprodukte, Schokolade, Bio und dann auch Lebensmitteltechnik präsentieren. Ja, in weiterer Folge gibt es natürlich in Asien, gibt es schon Veranstaltungen. Die Foodex in Japan ist zum Beispiel jetzt schon ausgebucht, ist im März. Irene Braunsteller macht auch die Beat Expo in Hongkong im Mai, die ist ebenfalls schon ausgebucht. Also die österreichischen Firmen gehen gezielt dorthin. als Begleitmaßnahme zu den Messen, also nicht nur, dass die Firmen sich auf Ständen präsentieren können, haben wir dann auch noch die Möglichkeit, es werden die Branchenexperten, wie also nach Singapur zum Beispiel oder nach Shanghai kommen, aus den 10 wichtigsten Besucherländern. Das heißt also von den ACs der 10 wichtigsten Besucherländern werden die Messe besuchen, werden da Termine mit den österreichischen Firmen wahrnehmen und werden sie über die unterschiedlichen Marktbedingungen und Eintrittsbedingungen beraten. Das ist geplant. Weiters werden wir natürlich auch, also in Singapur machen wir ein Networking-Event mit einem Keynote-Speaker, der über den Markt berichten wird. Und da werden auch die Branchenexperten der jeweiligen Außenwirtschaftscenter eine kurze Präsentation machen, einen Einblick geben über ihren Markt. Ja, schwenken wir noch ganz kurz nach Europa. Die Weltleitmesse ist dieses Jahr der CIAL Paris. Sie wissen, Anuga, CIAL wechseln sich ab. Dort sind wir auch wieder groß vertreten mit 4 Ständen. Wir haben einen internationalen Pavillon, wir haben Bio, wir haben dann auch Fleischprodukte und dann Getränke. Dort besteht noch die Möglichkeit, sich auch anzumelden. Jedenfalls ist die wichtige Veranstaltung. Und wie gesagt, wir sind auch also bei der PLMA in Amsterdam, Private Label. Private Label ist heute nicht mehr wegzudenken. Österreichische Exportfirmen müssen neben der Marke Private Label anbieten. Ja, und dann natürlich, last but not least, unsere Inlandsveranstaltung, das Highlight eigentlich im Lebensmittelbereich. Irene, der Marktplatz Österreich.
Ja, vielen Dank. Also auch ich darf herzlich einladen, sich zu beteiligen dann bei unserem Marktplatz Österreich, der heuer zum 14. Mal stattfinden wird, am Mittwoch, den 17. Oktober, eben vor der CIAL, womit wir wieder den Synergieeffekt erzielen können, dass die internationalen Einkäufer quasi vor ihrer Anreise nach Paris zur CIAL eben einen Zwischenstopp in Wien einlegen können und die österreichischen Herstellerinnen und Hersteller besuchen können. Also schon vormerken, 17. Oktober wird heuer unsere Marktplatzveranstaltung wieder in Wien in der Wiener Hauptstraße stattfinden. Das wäre jetzt mal von unserer Seite von den Veranstaltungen gewesen. Wir übergeben jetzt das Wort wieder an unsere Kolleginnen und Kollegen und auch an unseren Experten nach Manila. Vielen Dank vorerst.
Vielen herzlichen Dank auch an Irene und Franz in Wien. War ein eindrucksvolles Programm, das ihr dieses Jahr wieder vorhabt, und viel Erfolg und viel Glück dabei. Eine letzte kurze Anmerkung vielleicht noch von meiner Seite zum Programm selbst. Wir planen ja, ich gebe es zu, ist auch relativ kurzfristig, hier einen Gruppenstand, einen AC-Gruppenstand, und zwar in der Woche vor der großen Veranstaltung, die Franz Ernst Brunner erwähnt hat, in Singapur, nämlich bei der Fusion Manila im Rahmen des europäischen Pavillons auf dieser Messe. Die genauen Details dazu sollten wir auch in den nächsten Tagen erhalten. Und ich würde Sie bitten, wer auch immer schon Interesse daran hat, sich mit einer E-Mail kurz bei uns hier am Außenwirtschaftscenter Manila zu melden. Die Kontaktdaten finden Sie dann auch noch gegen Ende des Webinars, werden wir die einblenden. Wie gesagt, es ist das erste Mal auch hier, dass wir an dieser Manila Fusion teilnehmen werden oder planen teilzunehmen. Zeitlich auch günstig gelegen für alle, die vielleicht nach Singapur reisen und davor, ein paar Tage vorher, bereits einen Abstecher nach Manila machen wollen oder auch mittels einer Produktpräsentation oder Katalogen hier teilnehmen wollen. Wie gesagt, Informationen dazu folgen, und ich werde das auch dann in die E-Mail, die Sie von mir erhalten, mit den näheren Details bereits einfügen. Well, and now finally, it's my great pleasure and also my great honor to welcome CJ Garcia, our local expert. And he has been patiently sitting here next to me, listening to our colleagues. And he also mentioned that it was quite impressive, the program that we have prepared for the upcoming year. Just to give you a short introduction to who CJ Garcia actually is. CJ Garcia is not only the logistics, import, export, and operations manager at Mondelez here in Manila, but he is also a lecturer for the Department of Trade and Industry and a speaker on topics of international trade, customs laws, and supply chains. He received his MBA on International Trade and Customs Management and has been, among many other engagements, also the Executive Director of the Chamber of Customs Brokers for several years here in Manila. So, CJ, we are now very much looking forward to your presentation, and the webinar floor is yours.
Thank you, Christina. Hello, everyone. I know it's a very good morning with you guys in Austria. Thank you for joining and inviting me in this webinar. So, mabuhay from the Philippines. I'll be sharing with you in the next few minutes potential businesses with the Philippines and how you can actually export to the Philippines. Okay, so I'll be glad to hear your questions later if you have.
We hope so.
Of course, we'll be more than willing to answer those questions with regards to food and beverage importation into the Philippines from Austria. Okay. So on the next few minutes, we'll be having the Philippines as a market of your products from Austria. We'll be having discussions as well on import rules and regulations. In particular, we'll be discussing processes, the requirements, and the permits and licenses from Customs, FDA, Bureau of Animal, and Bureau of Plant. And of course, your wonderful questions at the end of our session. So let's talk about the Philippines first as a market. The Philippines is composed of 7,600 plus islands, as we say it. Composed of several regions. We are almost 100 million in population. And that 100 million is 100 million consumers, if we will translate that to a market size, okay? Let me show to you the demographics of the Philippines as a market for us to understand how the market behaves in the Philippines. So as mentioned, we are more than 7,000 islands. The population now is around 90 to 100 million, but the latest estimate from the government is around 105 by the end of the year. And mostly our population is very young, which means our consumption is at its height for products that will be saleable to the younger generations. In particular, we are referring to the so-called millennials, okay? As we can see as well in the presentation, the highest concentration of the Filipino people are in the mainland in Luzon, which is basically where the capital is. In terms of class, majority of the Filipinos as well belongs to the lower bracket in terms of income, which we will discuss later. Also, the Filipinos are 97% Christians in the Philippines, so religion plays a very important role in the spending habits of the consumers. So let's take a look on the economic classifications of our consumers in the Philippines. As mentioned, majority of the population belongs to the class D and E, which is the lower bracket of our population. That is very critical in sending products to the Philippines, which, by the way, is a heavy importer country. There's actually an imbalance of trade in the Philippines because we import more as a country than we export. The 100+ million Filipinos are basically lovers of imported products because we are the Philippines has been colonized and has been under the foreign rule for more than 300 years. And the mindset of Filipinos towards imported products are very high. So we really have this thing for imported products. And very few or very thin line of that population belongs to the class A and B, which holds the highest purchasing power. So later we'll be sharing how this demographic will impact the spending habits of the Philippines in terms of purchasing food and beverages. Okay, so aside from it, in terms of Filipino essentials and how to reach our consumers, majority of the Filipinos do have television sets. But of course, almost everyone has their own smartphones already and access to internet. The Philippines being the texting capital, the Facebook capital of the world. So everyone has access to internet already as we speak. These demographics will also affect, as mentioned earlier, our purchasing power and choices of products that we buy in the market. Since more than half of the population belongs to the lower class, the Philippines tend to purchase more of the budget-friendly products. It's very relevant in the market that in terms of size of products, let's say we're talking about ready-to-drink beverage, for example, those products that are in econo pack, or shall I say, those ready-to-drink products in smaller sizes are more saleable than those in big packs because of the split of the population. So let's go to the rules and regulations in terms of importation in the Philippines. So as a general rule in the Philippines, all our importations are subject to duties and taxes, especially if the products comes from outside Southeast Asia. It's already a heads up for future exporters to the Philippines that there's already a preferential treatment given to those products from Southeast Asia. So if you will be coming from outside Southeast Asia, certainly those products will be accorded with duties and taxes. For those, because I've seen in the voting earlier that most of our participants are not yet shipping goods to the Philippines. For those who are about to start, there are existing laws that the Philippine government is extending to new or starting exporters to the Philippines, should you wish to send samples, for example. So those samples are considered conditionally free, so you can still send products to the Philippines duty and tax free, assuming the value is below $200 in FOB or FCA value. Okay, and of course, other samples are considered duty and tax free, subject to some conditions. As a general rule in the Philippines as well, all importations of food and beverage are subject to permits and licenses. Later, we will discuss what kind of permit and licenses our importations into the Philippines or your products from Austria will be needing. So just to avoid delays in terms of releasing from the port, from the airport, from customs, all shipments to the Philippines must have permits and licenses. Okay, just to cite the basic documents needed for shipments from Austria going to the Philippines. The first four, those in colored red, are the mandatory documents that all shipments must present to the authorities prior to release. So basically, it's your bill of lading or airway bill, which your airlines or shipping lines will provide. As exporters, you should provide your importers in the Philippines the commercial invoice and packing list. And in the event that we're shipping fresh goods and food and beverage, health certificate or its equivalent is mandatory. Items 5, 6, and 7, the reason why they are not highlighted is that these documents are optional in nature. They will only be requested by the government on a case-to-case basis. So it's not mandatory. Okay. By the way, MSDS is your material safety and data sheet. COA stands for Certificate of Analysis, in the event that we are shipping chemicals or mixtures of different liquid and other forms. Okay. So just to give you a heads up of what permits and licenses your customers in the Philippines must have. So these are the registered Philippine entities. Before they can buy from you your Austrian products, they need to have these licenses before they can import from you. So just to protect our future exporters to the Philippines and to ensure that you are dealing with legitimate importers in the Philippines, legitimate distributors, and to ensure that there will be no delays, you might want to check with your business partners in the Philippines if they have these particular group of permits. So in a nutshell, they should have the complete local government licenses, in particular sanitation, access, facilities, and mayor's permit. If they are importing from you food and beverage items, they should have also permits from food and drug, permits from animal, assuming the product is an animal byproduct, or if a product is a plant byproduct, then we should get a permit from Bureau of Plant. And of course, if we are talking about merchandise for supermarkets or basic consumer goods, then they would need to get a permit from Department of Trade. As far as importation is concerned, the government authority that is in charge of monitoring and ensuring that importations are aligned with Philippine laws, it's only Bureau of Customs. So as far as imports are concerned, importers or your future clients in the Philippines must have the accreditation to import. This time, let's go to the checklist for you guys as exporters to the Philippines. As you can see, we have here 6 items in the list, and only the first one is not mandatory. Only the first one is required. Okay, so from items number 2, bullet number 2 up to the last one, these are optional requirements from the government, meaning to say you don't have to provide, not unless the authorities will require. So it's not mandatory that you provide these particular documents as exporter. These certifications or documents will only be needed in case that your shipment to the Philippines will be subject to inspection and verification. Because as a general rule, there's an open import policy to the Philippines because we are supposed to import items that we cannot produce. And we love imported products. So there is a blanket authority to import into the Philippines, but the government passed on to the importers the liability and the responsibility to follow importation rules. Okay? So the items in those with asterisk are only needed when the shipment in particular is in question. So I'm sharing to you now the basic cargo clearance process for imports. This will apply to imports from Austria in particular. So the process of importation is electronic in the Philippines. Only when the shipment has a derogatory information from abroad, let's say, hopefully none, the shipment will be manually checked by the authorities, which is red lane. Okay, but for the green and for the yellow, it's supposedly all electronic and should be released in a shorter period of time. I'll be sharing later another government initiative to segment importers in the Philippines and products being imported. Before I proceed to that, allow me to share potential delays or potential bottlenecks in the import process. Normally, in the Philippines, cause of delays in the import process is limited to system downtime, which is very relevant, very timely in the Philippines because of internet connection. So in case of system downtime in the government, shipments might be delayed from clearance. And the rest are all manual in the event that there will be a system downtime in the Philippines. If you will ask me how often it happens, last year, very often, but this year, luckily, we haven't had any system downtime since January 1.
Yeah. 16 days.
16 days.
And counting.
And counting, yes. Okay, so in the Philippines, the government offers this kind of scheming or groupings of importers. So importers in the Philippines are being grouped according to risk of importation. So for new importers in the Philippines, new and risky importers, the imports are classified as red, which is subject to physical inspection and verification. If the importer is tagged yellow, then the importations will be subjected to document checking. So that's the time that government will ask exporters like you to provide the documents I presented earlier, those with asterisk earlier. So that's the time they will ask several documents from you exporters to provide justification or to validate the imports into the Philippines. Assuming the shipment is tagged green, that will be electronically released, more or less 1 day in terms of processing. If that's super green, that can be released in half a day. If that is super green plus, that can be released in 30 minutes. If that is under the blue group or the AEO or the authorized economic operator, it can be released even before arrival in the Philippines. So basically, if your business partners in the Philippines are very compliant in terms of integrity, in terms of paying the rightful duties and taxes, your importers or your partners in the Philippines will be tagged green, super green plus, or the blue one, depending on the level of performance and compliance. So basically, it's very easy to send products to the Philippines if you are compliant, especially with the permits and licenses. So this is again the cargo clearance process. I'll not discuss this in detail, but these are all happening electronically in the Philippines. Since last year, the Philippine authorities launched the National Single Window Program that allows lodgement and clearance of cargoes from the port electronically. So it's actually a simplified process since last year. So I'm sharing to you the window where importers and customs brokers who will import your shipments will be using. This is the exact window that I got. A live feed from one of the value-added service providers. So this window actually tells us that all declarations, all shipments can be filed and can be released online through your laptops, through your smartphones as well. So importers are now given this opportunity to expedite the releasing from customs of all imports to the Philippines. In the interest of time, I'll be skipping some slides. Basically, I'm sharing the screenshot from the websites of the government partners in terms of cargo releasing. So eConnect, eTrade, Intercommerce are just few of the Philippine partners for the releasing of import shipments. Let's go directly to the permits and licenses, since we are, you guys are exporting to the Philippines food and beverage. For food and beverage imports to the Philippines, it's mandatory that we have at least one of the permits from Bureau of Customs, Bureau of Animal, Bureau of Plant, and the Food and Drug. It depends on the item that you will send to the Philippines. For example, if that is a bottle of wine, for example, that should have been registered with Bureau of Customs and the Bureau by the Food and Drug Administration, for example. If that's chocolate, that has to have a permit from the Food and Drug and Bureau of Animal. If the chocolate has nuts, then it has to have permit from the Food and Drug, from the Bureau of Animal, and the Bureau of Plant. So every time there is a byproduct of animal or plant into that product, we need to get a permit from the government. Don't worry, guys, because it will be your importer who will apply for those permits. All you need to do is to provide them samples so that these government agencies can actually check and validate your product if that is really covered by the policies in terms of permits and licenses. For example, in the company that I work for, since we are importing chocolates, we just get an annual blanket permit to import. So there's no need for us to get a permit on a per shipment basis. Instead, based on the analysis of the samples that we provided FDA, they gave us a 3-year blanket permit to import into the Philippines. So the registration and the validation will happen just once on the first importation. And the succeeding shipments will be as smooth as silk, assuming we follow the formalities, okay? So let's go to the government agencies one by one. So basically, the mother of all government agencies regulating the imports to the Philippines is Bureau of Customs. All government agencies, the function is centralized to Bureau of Customs. Basically, their function is to ensure that importers are equipped with the right permits and licenses, that exporters, for example, from Austria, has provided them the respective profiles. Because basically, as exporters from Austria, you just need to provide your company profile, and soft copy will do. Luckily, when they launched the national single window, the government is now accepting company profiles in soft copies. Soft copies. Kudos to the government. Okay. So basically, the role of Bureau of Customs is just to check if permits and licenses are in place and to collect lawful revenue. Next is the Food and Drug Administration of the Philippines. So basically, the role of FDA is to register the products into the Philippines before importation. That is a one-time, assuming we are importing new products. So they will test, they will conduct analysis based on the samples that you guys will provide, and they will register your product before we can commence the commercial importation. That is the ultimate function of food and drug. So all food importations, including beverage, has to be registered with the Food and Drug Administration. Timeline, normally registration will take 1 week to 3 months, depending on the responsiveness of the suppliers from abroad to provide the brochures, to provide samples, and to provide the needed and the necessary information about the products. So for products that is either made of plant or animal byproduct, same process. After registration with the Food and Drug Administration, your Philippine importers will need to register the same products with these government agencies, depending on the applicability. So from you as exporters, all you need to provide is your profile and, if needed, the samples for laboratory testing as the case may be. Oh, we're in part 3 already. So going back, before I present the commonly asked questions for future exporters to the Philippines, I think in a nutshell, importation into the Philippines is very much welcome because we Filipinos as consumers, we love imported products. That's very basic. However, the government is very strict in terms of permits and licenses. So the catch is if a certain importation is not properly registered or does not have the right permits and licenses, it will encounter delays into the Philippines. Okay, I listed down some basic questions that us in the Department of Trade and Industry are getting from future business partners of the Philippines. The first question is, what's hot and what's not in the Philippines? Since the Philippines is, majority of the population is in the lower class, so we're talking here of the families that are earning below 20,000 pesos or around $400 per month. So what's hot are budget-friendly packs into the Philippines, those that can fit into their limited budget. In the Philippines, you can have retail items to 1 or 2 pieces per pack. So that's very hot in the Philippines that you can see in our mom and pop stores like 7-Eleven, like those 24/7 convenience stores. So in small packs, small quantities are big hits in the Philippines. We also have this growing number of middle class in the Philippines. That's why manufacturers and exporters of food products are really selling good in terms of convenience, convenience and lifestyle products. We're talking here of ready-to-drink juices, ready-to-drink coffee, ready-to-drink distilled and fermented liquors, probably. So anything that plays on convenience are a good hit in the Philippines. And of course, our class A and B, they're very particular with healthy living and lifestyle. So there's a growing demand for organic and healthy food products in the Philippines. Tips on how to win the heart of Filipino consumers. Basically, since most of Filipinos are accessible via internet, we love internet, we love Facebook, and we all have television sets. So basically, companies who place very hard with marketing campaigns, good online penetration and samplings can easily penetrate the market. Online is actually very good media to reach to Filipinos to tell more about your products. In DTI, we've been telling our future business partners to advertise in online. Of course, the easiest way to penetrate the Philippine market are via distributorships. I saw earlier that most of you guys, for those who are already selling products in the Philippines, are via distributors, because basically they have access to probably half of the 7,000 islands in the Philippines. We also have modern trade, because in the Philippines, we don't have parks for the weekend. Filipinos tend to spend their weekends in malls. So our modern trade route is very, very relevant in terms of reaching to Filipino consumers. And of course, the emerging high impulse outlets, those are the convenience stores sprouting in every corner of each cities in the Philippines. We call it high impulse because consumers tend to buy right away if they see the products displayed on shelves of these convenience stores. Common concerns, probably not only from Austria, but from the West. Since we are halfway around the globe, transit time and distance is a concern. And of course, infrastructure and direct logistical support. However, that will lead me to item number 5. What's the cheapest way of sending products to the Philippines? In the company I work for, we are actually importing from Europe as well. So allow me to share best-in-class practices. For small volume importations from Europe, we are actually using consolidation hubs in major European ports. Most of them are located in Germany and in Netherlands because they have big ports. Also, if you have small volumes to the Philippines, I suggest you avail the loose cargo load or the LCL shipments using various third-party logistics providers. All of them can give you a good rate on how to ship to the Philippines cost-effective. Also, if your partner in the Philippines are importing heavily from Austria, why not ask them if they can come up with a buyer's consolidation? In that way, your importer, your buyer, your partner in the Philippines will put into one container their orders from all across Austria, for example, and fill in one container. In that case, the importer in the Philippines can save a lot. The other way around, we also recommend for suppliers like you, if you have multiple customers in the Philippines, might explore the use of suppliers consolidation. There's a specific customs process, one container, one supplier, but various importers in the Philippines. So the moment that we maximize a container, it's the time that we reduce cost as well. So the cost of shipping to the Philippines is being lowered if we maximize the full capacity of a container. I'll not be discussing the references of my presentation, but those in that presentation can be used in future discussions and if you have concerns to the Philippines.
Yes, just for our viewers who joined us, the appendices that CJ mentioned mostly give you an idea of the various registration forms there are, various certificates there are. So for you, it's actually also a way to have a look at what it actually looks like and what it is required. CJ, thank you so very much. It was perfect timing, absolutely spot on. And we actually did get a question that came up since I guess a couple of our webinarists are in the food and or wine business, and there is one question in particular that just relates to that, and I just read it out to you. And it says, is it allowed to sell alcohol everywhere in the Philippines, just for example, wine, or are there special shops with licenses that we probably know from other countries? Where it's just, how is it in the
since it's an open market in the Philippines, thank you, Bernard, for that question. In the Philippines, we can pretty much sell alcohol in almost all stores in the Philippines. The regulation plays only on how and how these stores will be selling the alcohol products. So you can see alcohol in convenience stores. You can see them in mom and pop stores, in groceries and supermarket. Of course, they are required to get license to sell. The regulation only plays on how they will sell it. So in the Philippines, retailers are not allowed to sell to minors. I'm speaking of 18 years old and below. So yes, we can sell it everywhere. It's a matter of how these alcohol products will be dispensed to public.
I will just forward now the presentation, because at the end of the presentation we have our contact details.
Yes.
So our viewers can take down our contact details. While doing so, in the meantime, I also have another question that you mentioned when during the presentation you said that the importer is liable to bring most of the certificates. From your experience, having the importers being so responsible and have all this liability regarding also in terms of the government, do they tend to be really demanding towards the exporters, asking them all the certificates that you just mentioned were not mandatory, were just part of it, but do they, from your experience, ask them already all the information and all the documents?
In the Philippine setting, the burden of providing documents is actually with the Philippine importer. And most of the documents needed for the licenses and permits are to be produced by the importers. So there's a very light requirement for suppliers like you guys abroad in terms of registration. As long as you provided your Philippine business partners the brochure of the product and the samples they need for the registration, that will be good. Very rare that the Philippine government would ask other supporting documents. Very rare. In cases of there are intelligence reports probably related to prohibited importations in the Philippines. Yeah, but there are very rare cases that the importer demands so much documents from suppliers like you guys.
At the beginning, when you talked about the society and the population and the setup of the population, the growing middle class, the high spending class, which is in total numbers still pretty impressive.
Yes,
I mean, there are $40,000 millionaires just in the Philippines, which is also an impressive number. When it comes to price and quality, do Philippines stand now as a trend spend more on quality, which is something that obviously plays for Austrian exporters producing quality foods and beverages? Or is price still so much the very issue that you have to compete with price?
It used to be price as a major determinant in the purchases in the Philippines. But since there's a growing middle class in the Philippines, of course, this middle class will have the higher purchasing power. Quality now plays a very big role in determining whether a product will be saleable or not. So quality is now a factor in deciding which brand or which products Filipinos will consume. The growing middle class is also spending on food, travel, and experiences in the Philippines. So there is a very good opportunity. We're talking here of half of the 100 million, these are all millennials. These are all the growing middle class in the Philippines, coming from the lower classes. So when these people transfer to the middle class, it's the perfect time that they tend to buy something that is more higher in terms of quality from a previous econo thing to a higher quality products.
I think we just have 4 more minutes, and one last question from my side, and then maybe there's another one coming from the audience. What are the main pitfalls for foreign exporters? What is it where you just say, "Oh dear, don't do that. Just don't do that," or what is it where you say, "Just listen to me, please do it this way"? What is it like? The top 3 of your suggestions,
as future exporters to the Philippines, I think the very first thing that you should do, guys, is number 1, to check and to verify if your business partners in the Philippines are legitimate, to ensure that, of course, you have a very legal transaction, because normally your shipments in the Philippines will be treated the way your business partners behaves in the Philippines. So number 1 is to ensure that you have a legitimate business contract with the Philippines, in the Philippine setting. Those that I presented earlier, you might want to ask their permits and licenses. So if they will order, let's say, a bottle of wine, please check first if they are really accredited or registered importer of wine in the Philippines. If they will import from you cheese, for example, make sure that they are registered as a Philippine cheese importer, because there is such thing as registration of products that you can import. So it's not really a general blanket authority that you can import anything. Importers will have that specific registration on what kind of products they can import, especially food and beverage.
Any other pitfalls that is absolutely crucial? Like, for example, do you have to be present personally in the market? Does that help you, as coming here as an exporter, talking to distributors, importers?
Well, that will be on the commercial side of the business. As long as your business partner is really valid and the contract is good, then you don't have to be here. However, it will add to your business if you are very actively promoting products in the Philippines. As I mentioned, Filipinos love going to malls. So if you guys could participate in exhibitions, in mall displays, sampling, for example, these are very good medium to promote your products in the Philippines.
Then one question, and thank you for that one, because that is also one of the questions I really, really like. Is Austria or is Europe, connected within the Filipino mind with quality? Is that when the Filipinos think about Europe or Austria, hopefully, is that something that when it comes to food, oh, these are quality products?
It is. Actually, in the Philippines, if a product came from the West, I'm speaking of Europe and the Americas, it's always associated with, okay, these are good quality products because it's from Europe, it's from Austria, it's from the Americas, for example. As opposed to your counterparts in Asia, I won't mention the name of the countries, but if you will compare Asian products versus that from the West, it's always that, if the product is from the West, then it's always regarded as a high quality product.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. I see my colleagues in Jänner are back on. Gibt es von eurer Seite Fragen an CJ oder gibt es auch noch von den Teilnehmern hier Fragen, die Sie ganz konkret an unsere beiden Kollegen, an das Branchenteam Food Retail und Consumer Goods stellen wollen? Wenn nicht hier im Forum, nicht hier im Webinar, Sie sehen ja auch schon unsere letzte Slide hier, das sind die Kontaktdaten, sowohl hier in Manila als auch die Kontaktdaten zu Irene Braunsteiner und Franz Ernst Brunner in Wien. Die Kontaktdaten von CJ werden wir gerne auch weitergeben, falls es also dann auch noch hier vielleicht eine Nachfrage gibt zu seinem Vortrag oder zu seiner Präsentation. Ich möchte mich schon mal an dieser Stelle ganz herzlich bei allen Teilnehmern bedanken. Haben alle durchgehalten bis zum Ende. Bei uns ist mittlerweile schon Abendverkehr und dunkel geworden. Das heißt, Manila wird sich in den Feierabend begeben. An alle in Österreich wünsche ich noch einen erfolgreichen Tag heute. Danke nochmals an meine beiden großartigen Kollegen für die Teilnahme und die Präsentation des wirklich eindrucksvollen Veranstaltungsprogramms. Und ich freue mich schon, wenn ich den einen oder anderen Webinarteilnehmer dann sehr bald auch mit den Produkten auf den Philippinen begrüßen darf. Herzlichen Dank nochmal und doch einen schönen Tag aus Manila. Wiedersehen. We're leaving? Goodbye. Have a great day, everybody.
Ja, von unserer Seite auch vielen Dank. Auch thank you very much, CJ, for your very interesting presentation. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Und auch vielen Dank an die Christina für die Vorbereitung und die Idee zu diesem Webinar. Und natürlich ein herzliches Dank und viel Erfolg für die österreichischen Produzentinnen und Produzenten. Viel Erfolg auf dem philippinischen Markt. Von unserer Seite auch danke.
Maybe we have a chance that you come to the Food and Hotel Asia in Singapore, maybe. We can make some appointments with the Austrian companies there. We have around 20 at the moment. There will be more. So I think
time will permit.
Yes, Frank Kisko, he's the sector manager of the Trade Commission. I think he will also be there in Singapore and will give the Austrians good information about a prospering market in Asia. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
I will work on it. I will work on it to send him there. Okay, thank you, everybody. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.